The JFK Records Act of 1992 states that all government documents related to the Kennedy assassination be declassified on October 26, 2017. What would be the most surprising thing to find out? JFK shot first. Imagine opening the PDFs with a more powerful tool, and you find that the black redactions are a separate removable layer. This has happened for many years before the CIA realized they were just using a digital black highlighter. What would be most surprising? Audio evidence of top CHAFB officials going, "Shit, man, we just can't figure this out. Not only can we not find out who actually killed him, now they think we did it. Wait, we didn't? Are we the baddies? Have you noticed that the badges on our caps have actually got little pictures of skulls on them? And it's not like it says next to the skulls, yeah, we killed him, but trust us, this guy was horrid." The documents actually being released to the public, CIA would never do this, unless they heavily altered them. Redacted. Data expunged. Containment breach. Eject the warp core. You require more Vespine gas. That nobody shot him, his head just did that. But they were blanks, weren't they? Yeah, if the back of his head chose that exact moment to explode. What is this from? I know I've heard something similar in a movie or something. It's a quote from Archer. "You fox-eared asshole." That Oswald wanted a war between the US and USSR. He planned to say that when he was in Russia he was brainwashed to kill the president. When they picked him up they realized this, and had to dispose of him before he could say so at a trial. If he had made that statement, a retaliatory strike would have been demanded by the people. Thermonuclear war would begin, killing most life on Earth. By silencing him, his shooter saved the human race. He could never tell the truth, as long as the Soviet Union was still around, and spent his last days in prison, content in his legacy. I want this movie and I want you to be the director. Steve Carell as the bumbling Lee Harvey Oswald. And Rob Schneider as the gun. And Jesse Ventura as JFK. And Dwayne Johnson as the Babushka woman. Michael Cera as Timmy before he gets shot by JFK. Flat Earthers vindicated. Oswald did not have to account for curvature of the Earth, thus lone gunman had an easy shot. Side note, my brother is one, and when I mentioned to him about snipers taking the Earth's curvature into consideration he just said, "Have you ever shot a sniper rifle?" If it turns out he was right, I'd never ducking live this down. Edit, lol, sorry for the confusion. He's not one. He believes there's a secret society living in Antarctica that has set things us to trick us. Once in Pripyat, I took down the ultranationalist Imran Zakhaev with a M82 on a 900-meter shot. Had to account for the Coriolis effect. That was found at the end that lead to discovering. Do I have to buy Reddit Gold to read this? No, you have to then place the at and. And that requires 2 sacrifices, or 3? Neither, you need of them. Sorry, I'm a bit about, did you mean, or perhaps, or even, or just of them? I'd be surprised at the bill for blackout pens used on the mountains and mountains of files. Hope they had a good deal with a stationery company. Edit, Sepplings. Pretty sure all government office supplies come from Skillcraft. Made by blind people. They make some good products though. Duck, I thought you were kidding until I googled it. Edit, okay everyone, I wasn't surprised at the government hiring disabled, I am as surprised at Skillcraft. Good for them. Right. I had a clipboard that said quality blind made products and them, so I looked it up. If you know anyone in the military, I am not, ask them about their ballpoint pens. They're legit my favorite pen out there. Edit, it would appear that people either love or absolutely hate those pens. To each his own, I suppose. Another edit, here is the pen I speak of. Do not confuse it with the shitty ones. Imgur.com. Can confirm, I'm Air Force. Skillcraft B3 is my favorite. Something about the babushka woman, I guess. The feds probably got her photos at some point, so it'd be a relief to have some closure that they're normal snaps and she just had an understandable delayed reaction to the assassination, so conspiracy theorists will stop bringing her up incessantly. I think the babushka woman was just a random bystander who wasn't aware of what was happening at the time, freaked out by what she had seen and that people were drawing attention to her. Even in those days the FBI would have been able to trace her pretty easily. Yep, agreed, and I don't think she'd be talked about at all if not for her headscarf making her look somewhat mysterious. Fact is, that was a relatively common garb for women back then, so it's never surprised me that most of the folks obsessed with her seem to be from generations born after the fact. I'm one of those young guns too, for the record, but she was sinister in any way. That's just absurd, who think the photos of her are unusual compared to women they see nowadays. So she must be sketchy, right? God forbid she dress like her contemporaries. Sigh. I'm in my mid-30s and I still see older women wearing headscarves, most often when it's windy. It would have been more common 50 years ago. For example, here's the Queen wearing a headscarf. I suppose it could have been a babushka. It also could have been a Muslim woman. It could have been some Christian woman showing her piety by covering her head. Or maybe it was a little chilly that day. It was late November, after all. What a weird thing to dedicate an article to. Yeah, I looked at this and thought, which entry-level journalist pulled the short stick? John Wilkes Booth actually killed JFK. Lee Harvey Oswald actually killed Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy. Kennedy was killed in a Lincoln. Also, they were both presidents of the U.S. And backwards, presidents of the U.S. spells Swait Faustness ERP. What a coincidence. I'd be pretty surprised to find out I did it. Especially considering I wasn't even born yet. That wouldn't stop Ted Cruz. Run expected Zodiac killer. That he's still alive. He faked his own death so he wouldn't have to deal with the stresses of the presidency any longer. I highly doubt he'd still be alive. He would be 100 years old and he suffered from Addison's disease, which is life-threatening if not properly managed. He faked his death right before shedding his human skin and possessing another human host. Goddamn gold system lords. He leapt out the host's mouth after the first shot. That's why he's grabbed his throat first. He was actually killed by himself from the future, to save his legacy and avoid a global catastrophe, and so Lister could have a smegging curry. Lee Harvey Oswald was JFK's illegitimate son. That he's been living as a black paraplegic in a retirement home where his roommate is Elvis Presley and they successfully defended the world from the awakening of an evil Egyptian mummy. He ordered the hit on himself. Hit versus JFK? Hitto. Nice hitto. How much toner my printer will need to print out the PDF file? Just switch to an inkjet printer momentarily, pull the black cartridge out, feed a stack of black colored sheets and inverse document color before printing. With all the redactions. You know. Barely any ink at all. That they would have got away with it too had it not been for those meddling kids. And that stupid dog. Curse you, Perry the Platypus. JFK was in on it and he ordered someone to kill him since he was suicidal, but he didn't want the nation to see him kill himself in office. I want you to kill me, just make it look like an assassination, and most importantly don't tell me when it's going to happen. Alright, we can do that. Say, when are you going to Dallas again? Damn it, I said don't tell me. If Oswald actually killed JFK with no accomplice, there was zero CIA cover-up interference, and the government was reasonably transparent about the story this whole time, I would be shocked. You'd be surprised by that? That's probably exactly what they'll say. Not implying it'd be the truth though. All of the important documents will have been shredded decades ago. Nothing of note will be released. This is highly unlikely. Why? Because it makes sense. Governments have a habit of doing extremely odd things to maintain secrecy. A fantastic example of this is the British government in the 20th century. When the British were the colonial rulers of Kenya, They were engaged in suppressing rebellions and being quite cruel to the Kenyan population. Torture, disappearances, and murders were common. It was also extensively documented. When they left Kenya, they took the documentation, but instead of destroying it, they literally buried it in the archives so that it would have a very low chance of being found. How do we know this? Because historians, being the nosy ducks we are, found it. British, haha, they'll never find this. Historians, you underestimate just how much free time I have.